Meantime, Democrat Congressman Jason Crow was one of the 128 in his party who did vote to block a bid to impeach President Trump over this entire success. But he has been talking a lot on social media about what he sees as something less than successful. He wrote on X, "I'm seeking more information about the strikes against Iran, but here's what we do know. Number one, Trump broke a promise to prevent America from entering new conflicts. Number two, Trump has once again exceeded his authority. Number three, Congress must act now and reclaim constitutional power over America's use of military force." So joining me now to discuss that is Democrat Congressman from Colorado, Jason Crow. Congressman, thanks again for being with us here on the program.
Will,
tell
thank
me
you.
what. I'm glad to have you as always. Tell me what there is
I thought you were going to call me the daddy of Fox News Democrat. Sorry.
That remains to be seen, Congressman. We'll wait to see.
News Democrats.
Well, if you are a father, I congratulate you and salute you on your fatherhood. But before we are your children, we'll see how you perform on this particular debate or conversation. But I'll make sure that I am honorable enough to call you daddy should you make me your son. But I do want to ask you.
Fair enough.
I do want to ask you why you're so upset. Why are Democrats so upset? It seems something incredible has been accomplished. We have set back Iran's nuclear capabilities. We can debate, and we'll wait for intel on whether or not that's months, years, or obliterated. We have accomplished something that several presidents have said they wanted to accomplish, which was to stop this nuclear program. We've done so as well while accomplishing peace between Israel and Iran, and I'm having trouble figuring out why every Democrat seems to be so upset about this remarkable success.
Yeah, well, we don't know, Will, what, if anything, we've accomplished because there haven't been briefings. There was supposed to be a briefing yesterday to all of Congress that's been postponed. So, hopefully we'll get more answers on Friday. But listen, there is bipartisan support throughout the country, throughout the places where I'm from, working class places, rural places, places in the Midwest, places in the West. People just don't want the United States to be pulled into another Middle East conflict. Right? People can't afford groceries. They can't afford homes. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We spent $3 trillion on Iraq and Afghanistan. 6,000 troops died. It's not unreasonable to say we deserve answers. We want to know the plan. We want to know the end game. We want to know the goal. And what is it you are trying to achieve other than just a one-time airstrike against these facilities? Because we know that one airstrike or a series of airstrikes will not solve this ultimately, which is why I was actually glad to hear that, in your last segment that Donald Trump says they're going to talk to Iran. That actually is where we need to be again, because diplomacy is what will ultimately solve this.
I guess what I'm suggesting, Congressman, is you should be glad. You should be glad at much more of the outcome of this remarkable military excursion, this remarkable military achievement. And I know you served in our military. We've had that conversation before, and I salute your service and appreciate your service. But all the questions you ask, I actually agree with. I think that's a wonderful conversation to have before this took place. What is our goal? Was our goal accomplished? Do we want to get engulfed in yet another conflict in the Middle East? But you know who else agrees with that? Not just you, not just me, and not just everybody watching, but President Donald Trump. He's made that very clear. He has no interest in a prolonged war in the Middle East, not in Iran or anywhere else. And so for you to be asking those questions now makes me wonder, as you've brought up constitutionality, you've brought up congressional notification. And I wonder what you mean when you start tweeting about time to reclaim war powers back from the President of the United States.
Yeah, it's a really great question. And listen, I applaud our airmen and airwomen who did this mission, right? And I can have problems with the mission itself, but the fact that it went off so well and it was executed, sure, I always support our service members and we should applaud that, but let's not confuse that with the actual debate. I went to war 3 times for this country in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we spent, like I said a minute ago, we spent $3 trillion in those wars. They ended poorly by most measures. So, when people talk tough in this town, when politicians pound their chest and saber rattle, it's some young man or woman in a working class community, people that I grew up with, kids like me that have to go off and do the work. So
that's
I think
really
it's
quickly, Congressman, but that's all
questions.
very fair. That's really fair. And again, you're not going to find a lot of disagreement on that. But I'm trying to figure out why you're applying it to this particular issue. There's no call to invade Iran. There's no call from this president to get involved in another prolonged war in the Middle East.
Yep. And here's why. The president, any president, has the authority to defend America under Article 2 of the Constitution, undoubtedly. Every president has actually used that authority. but there has to be an imminent risk against Americans or U.S. facilities. I have seen nothing in the last year that shows an imminent risk, which means you have to come to Congress. And why that's important is the reason I talked about before. We spent 20 years in war and wasted trillions of dollars because we stopped having the debate. It is so wrong. And by the way, the Republicans and Democrats did this. There were Republican administrations, there were Democratic administrations, Republicans controlled Congress, Democrats controlled Congress. There was literally one vote over 20 years to send America to that war for 20 years. So I think it's really important for Congress to get involved again and say, you know what, not on our watch, not anymore. No more blank checks. If Americans are going to be asked to pay for this, if Americans are going to be asked to do the fighting and the dying, then we need to have a public conversation about it.
Let's indulge that for just a moment, because I do think it's a little bit off base in that we're not talking about going to war in Iran. President Trump is not asking for a prolonged war in the Middle East, and we have to hammer that point home again and again together here, Congressman. But I do appreciate your bipartisan criticism, because I would look for inconsistency, as I did last time when we talked, because President Obama dropped untold number of bombs on countries that were not covered by the AUMF. Syria, Somalia, Yemen, thousands upon thousands of bombs that were not congressionally approved. Yep. So did Bill Clinton in Kosovo and Bosnia. So we have seen this from every administration. So I require criticism to be consistent when it comes to this application of the War Powers Act. That being said, Congressman,
it was wrong then and it's wrong now.
I heard you, and I appreciate that. That being said, the War Powers Act in and of itself, the constitutionality is not clear, and the president, the commander-in-chief, under Article 2, needs to have broad leeway and power to do what he can do to preserve America's interests. And I think that's what we've seen here. Not a declaration of war, not a prolonged invasion, but simply a bombing, as we've seen in the past, to ensure that Iran does not have nuclear capabilities.
But Will, we haven't seen that. We don't even know what we've seen. There's been no briefing to Congress. There's been no basic information. There's been no debate. There have been no votes. There's been nothing. So you know, when you
the
say
president did send a letter on Monday to satisfy the War Powers Act. Congress was informed on Monday satisfying the War Powers Act.
All it was that letter, by the way, have your viewers Google it, have them look it up. Literally a 2-paragraph letter that just recites the legal authorities. That's all it says.
Well, I'm sure you would like more information, but that satisfies the constitutionality of the action under the War Powers Act. And what I would say, Congressman, is this. You also have to consider the national security threat. Telling you might be one thing. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett saying that she's the one that should decide, and that information, and you can appreciate operational security, that information going to someone so active on TikTok with that level of irresponsibility is a whole nother issue here when it comes to the commander-in-chief doing what's best for the United States of America.
Yeah, Will, by the way, this is not what I would like. You said this is what I would like, more information, like a document, a one-page document that just recites legal authorities and constitutional provisions actually doesn't give us the facts that Congress needs. This isn't what I want. This isn't what I would like. This literally is my constitutional obligation. I'm a member of Congress, and the Constitution says that it's Congress that has to authorize use of military force if there's not a self-defense need. So what I need is information. I need specific information that shows, was there an imminent threat? We haven't received that yet.
The question of whether or not you have a constitutional right, Congressman, is whether or not this action satisfied either imminent threat or protection of American interests. That gives the president those powers.
And it's my obligation to determine whether that's true. And as a member of the Intelligence Committee and the Armed Services Committee, I have seen no information in the last year that would indicate that's true. If the administration has it, then they need to produce it to everybody, to Democrats, to Republicans. They need to produce it to Congress, because it is Congress's role to conduct oversight and apply the facts to the law and to the Constitution to say whether or not this was authorized or not. That is literally our job.
From this vantage point, one of the most transparent administrations in history is up front and under constitutional protection and constitutional right to do what they have done. We will continue that conversation together if there's more. I think those questions you ask are legitimate, and we should have those conversations if there's more to be said now about military action in Iran. Congressman Crow, thanks for the prolonged conversation. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.